Welcome all. It's my pleasure on behalf of the AGA Committee on GI Innovation and Technology to continue our series on brief chats with leaders in our field. My name is Simon Mathews. I'm fortunate to be the chair of the committee this year. And it's my pleasure to welcome Matt Schwartz today, CEO and co-founder of Virgo Surgical Systems. I've had the pleasure of meeting and knowing Matt for some time. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Matt. I'd love for you to share a little bit about your personal background, and then we can obviously get into what Virgo is up to and all about.
Yeah, sounds great. It's great to see you again, Simon. Thanks for the opportunity to share the Virgo story. So again, my name is Matt Schwartz. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Virgo. Just a little bit of my personal background. So I'm trained as a biomedical engineer, and prior to starting the company in 2017, was a product manager at Intuitive Surgical, which is the company that makes the Da Vinci robotic surgery system. So while I was at Intuitive, I was working on their Da Vinci Xi platform and some of their next generation solutions. And this was probably around 2015, 2016 or so. I became very passionate about machine learning and specifically computer vision, started taking some courses online and recognized there was a huge opportunity to bring computer vision solutions to the broad field of endoscopy. It was kind of interesting, being at Intuitive was initially really interested in surgical applications of computer vision. And actually through a couple of just coincidences, I kind of fell into the world of gastroenterology and kind of got our start as a company in GI at the AGA Tech Summit back in 2017. And so we owe a major debt of gratitude to the AGA and the Tech Summit in particular.
That's great. Appreciate the unsolicited plug there, Matt. Help our audience understand sort of how your company interfaces with the broader GI community.
Yeah.
What does it do and who does it serve as you see it now?
Yeah, I'll tell you about the starting point, but as with many startups, things have definitely evolved in some really interesting directions over the years. But the core insight we had as a company back in 2017 was that endoscopy as a field generates this really interesting bit of information in endoscopy video. But historically, nobody was actually capturing that video data. So I'm sure you in the audience are familiar. People, save a few still images that get committed to the endoscopy report. But the raw video of these procedures would just disappear after the fact. And we felt like just for pure documentation purposes, this was a gap in documentation. And then, of course, future facing, thinking about long-term AI applications, we felt like that data is incredibly clinically rich and could be useful into the future. And so initially we sought out just to build the gold standard video capture and management solution for GI endoscopy. And a lot of this was based on my experience as a product manager in surgical robotics and having seen endoscopy and operating suites across the country and across the world. We wanted to build a solution that was really user-friendly and leveraged modern technology. So instead of traditional hard drive or DVD recorders, we wanted something that was cloud-based, really simple to install, really simple to maintain, and also cost-effective. And so we launched our first product, Virgo Cloud. It starts with a small device. You can maybe see my screen here. We like to compare it to an Apple TV for endoscopy. So we'll connect this to existing endoscopy video processors, and then it actually uses machine learning to automate the video recording process. And from there, videos get compressed and encrypted and securely transferred off to our HIPAA-compliant and SOC 2 compliant web portal. And initially, the tool is really designed for physicians. We definitely cut our teeth in the academic space where there's this latent demand for video for research purposes, training and fellowship programs, quality improvement initiatives. And then from there, we kind of built out a platform and really layered on solutions in the clinical trial space and are now leveraging that data infrastructure for some really interesting AI applications.
Well, that's a great segue to sort of my next question here in terms of where the company is headed. And again, I'd love to get your take on the field of gastroenterology as you see it from your perspective. More broadly, where do you think that's going? And honestly, where, Virgo is situated to take advantage of perhaps some of those trends?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Virgo, we've now captured over 2 million high definition endoscopy procedure videos that spans the breadth of GI endoscopy. So obviously a lot of colonoscopies, but upper endoscopies, everything from a standard EGD to some of the most advanced and complex interventional endoscopy procedures that are being done today. And one of the things we're really excited about is earlier this year, we announced an AI foundation model for endoscopy. It's called EndoDINO, and The idea there is that instead of an AI point solution, like a specific CAD-E or CAD-X solution, say for automatically detecting colon polyps,
Sure.
this is really meant to be a generalized AI foundation model for computer vision in endoscopy. We train this on data from over 130,000 procedure videos, which to our knowledge is the largest data set reported in the literature. And we trained it in a self-supervised fashion. So instead of labeling the data as, here's a polyp or here's a patient with IBD, it's just raw visual data going in. And as a result, our model EndoDINO kind of learns all of these underlying concepts within endoscopy. And that foundation model can then serve as a backbone for building new tools on top of it. If you do want to build polyp detection or polyp segmentation, we've demonstrated state-of-the-art results there. If you want to recognize different anatomical landmarks or score IBD disease severity, the EndoDINO model is an incredibly powerful backbone for all of those applications. And I'll say commercially, we're very focused on leveraging the EndoDINO model for some pharmaceutical R&D applications. We're specifically looking at being able to take a patient's baseline colonoscopy in IBD, and from that, predict their likelihood of responding either in the placebo arm or the treatment arm of a drug trial. And we've got some great early data that we hope to publish on later this year supporting that. But I guess as it pertains to the AGA core membership, one of the things we're really interested in is making this EndoDINO foundation model available to health systems that are using Virgo to capture their own data. And one of the things we think can be really compelling is allowing health systems to actually build their own CAD-E and CAD-X systems, where historically, that's really required the time and cost-intensive effort of an industry player to build those solutions.
Sure.
With the foundation model, we think it can open it up for a health system to use their own data to train their own polyp detection system, for example. So we're super excited about that opportunity.
That seems like a real meaningful leap forward. I'm curious if your model is just purely based on the image capture, or are there sort of demographic and other variables that ultimately go into it?
So right now it is really purely video based. There's no additional text information or metadata that's fed into the model. It's definitely something we're thinking about for version 2, is actually, having somewhat of a multimodal model that combines image and text data and actually video as opposed to just images. But it is really a computer vision based model. And the whole idea is we're seeing an incredible diversity of data from the various sources that are capturing in Virgo. So we get a lot of different demographics that are accounted for, even different equipment. We think is really important to account for all of that as part of the core foundation model, so that when you go to build one of these downstream AI applications, it's going to automatically generalize to different equipment or different demographics or different disease conditions.
Got it. Sounds like it's pretty flexible coming out of the gate.
That's the goal.
I'd love to sort of click down a little bit further on what that looks like as you roll this out, especially as you're looking for potential partners to develop further applications. So can you take me through what that might look like? Say there's an interested group or individual out there that has sort of a meaningful area of interest. Take me from there to where you see things headed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, of course, have this growing network of health systems that have deployed Virgo. And our intention is to start by making this EndoDINO model available to those groups that have already been recording video data with Virgo. But say one of those groups has some, niche AI application that they want to develop for. Maybe they want to localize some anatomical landmark in an ERCP. Historically, the way you'd go about doing that is you need to record or capture or annotate a lot of data, maybe hundreds or thousands of different procedures. The whole benefit of this EndoDINO model is that because it's learned from such a large pool of data, you can build these types of applications with far fewer labeled samples than you would otherwise need. So a single health system, they might need only 50 or 100 ERCP videos that they've recorded within Virgo. We expect that right now they'd probably reach out to us and say, hey, we've got some idea for a project. We can certainly help them design, what sort of data they would need to pull together, make sure that they're annotating it accordingly. You can actually use the EndoDINO model in ways to automate parts of the data annotation process. And then from there, the heavy lifting of the machine learning training is really done by our foundation model. And then you can train these lightweight neural network layers on top of it. And so we can, of course, help with that. We find a lot of health systems, they've got, really eager engineering labs and machine learning labs that can actually provide a bunch of research assistance. And then from there, the health system has, trained this lightweight neural network layer that they can actually deploy for future cases to, in the near term, validate, and then provided it does what they're looking to do, they can actually deploy it within their health system.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate that. And just in terms of timeline, when is all this getting rolled out? And to the extent you can share, where performance is, that would be great. But I understand if you need to wait on publications for that to come.
Yeah, no problem. So we did actually release a manuscript to the archive platform on EndoDINO. Be happy to send you the link if you want to attach it to this, or if you just search for EndoDINO, EndoDINO on archive. Archive is ARXIV if folks aren't familiar. And so you can check out in that manuscript, we actually kind of explain a little bit more detail about how we trained the model, what data was fed into it, and then these different evaluations that we did on open data sets. So we evaluated the model on performance in some key benchmarks like anatomical landmark recognition, polyp segmentation, and Mayo scoring on frames for ulcerative colitis, and demonstrated state-of-the-art performance across all of those different tasks. And one of the things we really focused on was not just top-line performance, but actually trying to demonstrate very high performance with less labeled data than prior state-of-the-art needed. And in a lot of cases, we were able to do that with actually like 1% of the data that was used by prior state of the art. Really is a demonstration that this can generalize to all these different areas, and it requires less labeled data than you would otherwise need if you're going to train a model from scratch. In terms of making this available, so we are starting out with a handful of innovation partners. These are health systems that have had Virgo installed for a pretty significant period of time. We'll be working with folks at Mount Sinai, UMass, and Beth Israel for early access here, and like to prove out some of these use cases, but hopefully can expand it to a larger group of folks that have Virgo installed later this year. And if anyone's really interested and wants to learn more, we're always happy to have a conversation and can certainly share more about what the process is like to get Virgo installed and then what it would look like to leverage this EndoDINO model from there.
That's a great update, Matt, and I really appreciate it. Any parting words? I think this probably concludes our brief chat session, but you've given us all a lot to think about, and it's an exciting future in terms of where you're directing things and ultimately democratizing access to AI tools. I think we're just getting started, as you probably believe. But I'll leave you with the last word. Go ahead.
No, this has been great. I couldn't agree more. We think that in order for AI to really be clinically adopted and make a meaningful difference, it is important to democratize it so that we can have faster cycles on development and understand what works and what adds value and what doesn't. So we're really excited about this as kind of a new paradigm in AI development for the field of GI. And would just say as a last word, I'm always open for conversations. If folks out there have interesting ideas, I would always be happy to bounce ideas back and forth.